Recently, the Pentagon of the United States government confirmed what many of us already know to be true, and that is that aliens are real. Yeah, they definitely exist. Now, if you go into the the Pentagon database and poke around, much of what is released is pretty boring and doesn't really tell you much. You know, it's like maybe I remember looking at one document where it talks about like a French general spotting a flying object over a uranium mine in the Congo back in like 1954 or something like that, right? You get a lot of that kind of stuff. So obviously they're admitting that there are entities out there that are different than normal physical humans currently on Earth, although very little information is provided about like who they are, their origin, and what their motivations are. So I think that it is worthwhile to, maybe dissect what we know about the spirit world, how it's constructed, and also what we know about human behavior, and see if these principles fit into the concept of these aliens and how they would interplay in our life. Okay? So, first, let's talk about the construction of the spirit world. Now, I have talked about this in a previous video, but I want to go over it again. And, I want to make a point when talking about all this stuff here. A lot of this material I believe, and some of it I know. And we will talk about the differences between knowing and believing in another video. But part of knowing is you absolutely have confirmed that this is true. And believing is essentially projecting into what you don't know based upon what you do know. Okay? Because the Creator is consistent and loving in how she has designed this place. Okay? So it's not like humans, where like humans piecemeal everything together and there's a rule, but some people are allowed to break it and some people aren't. That's not how the Creator operates. The Creator operates in consistency with all of her children, and that the principles that hold this place together are universal. Okay? So, to the best of my knowledge at this current time, here is the construction of the spirit world. First of all, there are two main kingdoms in the spirit world, okay? There is the human kingdom, and there is the celestial kingdom, okay? And I'm saying that the human kingdom goes from dimension 1, which is hell, all the way up to dimension 6, which is where the originally created perfect humans reside, okay? Or where, when humans were originally created, they were in a perfect state, and that was where they reside. They precipitously fell, but then, as various people throughout the ages started entering the spirit world and learning the various truths about how the spirit world is governed, many have gone to that and beyond, okay? So, you can be perfect, a perfect human, and not have God in your life. That is possible, okay? And we'll talk about perfection in another video, but for the time being, let's just hold with me here that like you can be a perfect human, you can not have a relationship with the Creator, and you can still be pretty high up, okay? Each of these dimensions represents interstellar boundaries made of love, okay? How fun is that? The more loving you are, the higher you get to go in the spirit world, right? That to me is intuitive, it's logical, and it is loving, okay? So like if you are in a non-loving condition, you do not have the ability to visit the higher realms. Literally, your soul will not allow you to go there, okay? That is the opposite of how the physical world operates, right? Like, you can have, you could be, in a totally loving state and someone could just come up and shoot you. That doesn't happen in here. Okay? Because the person who would have it in their soul to even enact violence on somebody can't visit these places. Now, that being said, beings or entities who do reside in these higher realms have the ability to go lower. Okay? So, an example. I communicated with the being that we refer to as Gandhi in the spirit world. I had some questions for him, and I put out the feeling that I wanted to interact with him, and he chose to answer me, and he came and visited me in kind of like a neutral place. You know, I was not permitted to go to where he lives, okay? Maybe I'll tell you what he told me in another video, okay? Beyond that, we have dimension 7 and up. And this is the celestial kingdom, right? So every being that lives in these realms, not only are they perfect in love, but they also have a deep relationship with the Creator. So like, this is what being a Christ is, like being up in here, to be Christified, to be one with God in all your feelings and actions. Now, that's not to say that you are God, because you still are your own individual child of God, and you're expressing yourself in loving ways. You're expressing your own individuality in loving ways. So like if you interact with a celestial being, they are totally unique, but not unique like we think we're unique. Like not unique like my name's Michael and I'm wearing a tie-dye shirt. Like there are other Michaels out there wearing tie-dye shirts. That's not the kind of individuality I'm talking about. The individuality it's the totally unique aspect that you have because that's how the Creator made you. Okay. We're like down here, okay? And when we go to sleep at night and we enter into the spirit world, we're still in the hells. This is why many people have difficult times in their sleep state, where they interpret their experiences as being horrible dreams. But really what's happening is they are attracting events in the spirit world, just like they do in the physical world, in an attempt to get them to feel out their emotions. But there are less addictions available in the spirit world, like you can't drink beer in the spirit world, okay? So you can't cover your own emotions with man-made physical suppressants. So, like a way to think about this would be that this is a spectrum of no love, devoid of love, all the way at the bottom of the hells, all the way up to pure love and beyond. Okay? Now, as we've discussed in the morality video, between evil behavior and totally loving behavior, there is a huge spectrum of what I call non-loving. Okay? So you can have two kinds of non-loving behavior, but one is more loving than the other one, right? Okay. Now, as we progress through these different dimensions, if you like, we will learn different emotional lessons and truths about this place. Okay? So, for example, the one, something that I'm aware of is that a main sort of lesson or teaching or understanding that anyone has to go through when they go from the first dimension to the second dimension is releasing their fear in terms of them making decisions based on fear. Okay? Now, remember, fear is having false beliefs from the Creator's perspective, okay? So I'm not saying that we're getting rid of all of our fear when we go into the next dimension. I'm saying we're no longer making active decisions using fear as a determining factor for those decisions, okay? So like when you get up every morning to go to work, you're actually full of fear because you're doing it because you think you have to do this for money to survive when you don't actually want to do it. If you were totally living without fear, you would wake up and you'd go ride your bike, or you'd go surfing, or you'd go whatever you want to do, okay? But that's not how we live. And all I'm trying to demonstrate is that we've got huge amounts of fear inside of us, okay? Now, what about aliens? Where do they fit into this whole equation? Okay. Well, aliens are spirit persons that live somewhere in here. Okay? Not here. They are still human. They're still human. Okay? They are not one with God in love. They are not Christified. However, many of the aliens that we interact with are in more loving conditions than most humans on this planet currently are. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, there are spiritual countries, if you like, that exist in the spirit world where spirit persons, based upon their worldviews, will self-select and group together. Kind of like what we do in the physical world, right? This is my political party, this is my religion, this is my country, this is my sexual identity, this is my football team, this is the city I live in, all that jingoistic regionalism, nationalism, isms, whatever you want to call it, okay? Those still exist in the spirit world, okay? And there's, in this, okay, different sort of spiritual countries, if you will, reside in different areas, okay? So like, for example, if you've ever interacted with a Pleiadian spirit, generally speaking, they are far more loving than the average person that you will speak with in the physical world. However, does that mean everything they do is totally loving? No. Because you could be in here, and you could be far more loving than anyone on Earth, and maybe from your perspective here, let's say you're in the third dimension. If you're in the third dimension, from your perspective, things are really good. And you look down on the earth and you say to yourself, oh man, it's a mess down there. Maybe if the people who live there only knew some of the things that we currently know, things would be a lot better for them. Okay? So then the Pleiadians send their spirit people to the physical world in an attempt to communicate and interact with various persons to try to transmit some of these understandings. What about the other side of it? Okay, what about the reptilians? Okay, well, they're so-called aliens as well. However, they are way down here. They're pretty low here. Okay, they're probably down here actually. And they are actually a conglomeration of many spiritual persons that come together to form an entity. Now, why do many of them have to come together to form an entity? Because they're in such a non-loving, weak condition that their spirit bodies have shrunk to very tiny. So they need to form together in a group to create what a person perceives as a very powerful, scary entity. Okay? The motivations for why a reptilian entity would come and interact with humans is not the same as why a Pleiadian entity would. Okay? The reptilians, from what I understand, feed on fear of humans. They actually, they think they get power from sucking the fear, spiritually speaking, out of physical humans. Okay? Now, using the comparison between the Pleiadian energy and the reptilian energy, are the Pleiadians more loving? Yes, absolutely. But they're not one with God. And how do I know that? Because they have technology. celestial beings do not need physical technology. Celestial beings can do more than any of these entities can do just by intending it to happen. Because as we progress through the different dimensions and eventually become one with God, we gain tremendous amounts of power that we can't even imagine right now. Like, one example of an ability that you could get is, like, let's say you're a spirit and you're very loving and you are very powerful, and there is a loving reason for you to manifest a physical body on the earth for a short period of time in order to interact with somebody. They can do that. Sure. Why wouldn't they be able to? Do you not think that they can? Maybe you don't think that they can because your imagination is weak. And it's difficult for you to imagine what you don't know, which is what the imagination is. It's expanding into territory that you don't know. There's more going on here than we realize. They will steal your free will. A celestial being will not. And that's the difference, okay? So, like, a celestial being will not force you to do anything, or will not force their truths that they know onto you. But a Pleiadian person will. And I know this because for a period of time I had a Pleiadian spirit guide. I no longer have that Pleiadian spirit guide. Actually, our spirit guides can change. And I'll do videos on that in the future too. But I'm just trying to highlight an example that, like, again, this is humans looking for answers from other humans to solve our problems, right? A lot of this, like, we manifest everything that happens, right? So part of the reason why people are so excited about aliens is because we're so displeased about how this place is run that we want someone to come down from the sky and save us. This is very similar to the false belief about Jesus being God. It's like we humans have an addiction that we want some other entities to come and fix our problems for us. And when God doesn't do it, we will accept other humans to do it. And that's actually non-loving, in a sense. Now, I'm not trying to say that the Pleiadian or any other kind of alien presence here is not beneficial. It can be, but it isn't necessarily. And that's where we need to, use discernment and nuance. So, they have limitations. So understand that. Like, when you're interacting with an alien, they may have a greater degree of understanding than you, and they may know more truths about physical laws or natural laws that the Creator has created, how to manipulate those laws for their own benefit, but that doesn't mean that they know about the Creator herself. Because if they did know, then that's what they would be teaching to help all of us connect with the Creator being. Because to me, that's the most loving thing that anyone can do. Rather than, continuing to engage in the kind of violent warfare that we engage here in the spiritual world. There's battles going on here, just like there is in the physical world. And it makes sense, right? The principles of how humans currently are, we are angry, we are sexually repressed, and we have false beliefs about God. We like to make ourselves king, and we want other people to serve us. And guess what? Many of these aliens have similar feelings. Well, I guess that's all I have to say for this about now. If this is unnerving to you, talk to God about it. Feel about it. Do you feel fear that there are other entities around? How about if some of these entities had the power to shapeshift? Is that possible? If you haven't experienced it, does that mean it's not possible? Again, there's more going on here than any of us realize, okay? So my advice to you, be humble, own your own emotions. If it is fearful and terrifying that there are other interstellar entities that are messing around in our planet, feel about that. Good luck, friends. Love and peace.